Did you know that the Gardener's Workshop offers cut flower seeds? Our hand-picked selection includes only the varieties we grow in our own fields and gardens, and each pack is printed with our exclusive growing tips and insights. So visit us at thegardenersworkshop.com today. The Gardener's Workshop, turning all thumbs green. Hey everyone, welcome to the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessie from the Gardener's Workshop. Today's episode features a takeover of our popular weekly live Q&A session on Instagram, and we normally call that Ask a Flower Farmer, but this one we called Ask a Florist, and it featured guest host Ellen Frost of Local Color Flowers in Baltimore, Maryland. Ellen is a floral designer who creates exclusively with flowers and foliage purchased from local growers. She's also one of our course instructors here at the Gardener's Workshop. In this Q&A, Ellen fielded questions about floral design, the different flowers she uses throughout the year, and some great business questions too. So listen in, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, welcome to Ask a Florist Anything. I'm so glad you're here with me today. So just a quick introduction as we get started. My name's Ellen Frost. I'm the owner of Local Color Flowers. I am located here in Baltimore, Maryland, and I have been a florist for 17 years. And my floral design studio sources all of its flowers locally, so everything we use come from farms within 100 miles from Baltimore. I also write a free weekly newsletter all about flowers, which you should definitely check out. You can find that at ellenfrost.com. It comes out weekly on Thursdays. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to learn more about flower growing, flower designing, local flowers, seasonality. I'm also a course creator with the Gardener's Workshop. I offer 2 online courses through the Gardener's Workshop. One of them is a short course called Preparing to Sell to Florists. That's great for farmers who are wanting to sell flowers to florists. The other one is a long course, and it's called Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing. And it's great for farmers and for florists who want to source more locally and want to know how to do that. I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing today. I'm here in my studio doing some YouTube videos, actually. I just made a video that will be coming out next week about large-scale urn arrangements using all locally sourced flowers. So we had things like smokebush, delphinium, foxglove, lilies, poppy pods, statice, poppies themselves. So it was a really fun video to make. I do put out YouTube videos every Tuesday, and they are to help beginners or people of all sort of levels of design create beautiful designs with local flowers, and as well as talk about things in our industry that are of interest to farmers and florists. All right, we don't have any questions yet. You can ask me about flower design, selling to florists. Oh, let me say, somebody just asked a question about Lisianthus seedlings. I am not a grower. I am only a florist. So next week when Lisa's back, she or Dave, if he's around, can answer all your questions about growing. I tried to grow in the past and decided that floristry was a better fit for me. You can find me if you want on Instagram, either at Local Color Flowers or Ellen Frost Flowers. So Local Color Flowers is really our studio Instagram, and Ellen Frost Flowers is more my personal branded Instagram that teaches people. There's lots of education things on there. So you can check me out in both places, and you can find the newsletter at ellenfrost.com. So let's see, we've got a question here. Where do you suggest we start as a hobby or home gardener regarding arranging? That's a good question. First off, I would say it's great that if you have flowers at home that you can play with, because having your hands on flowers and practicing design is the number one way you get more comfortable doing floral design. So I would say definitely practice. You can check out my YouTube channel, Ellen Frost, on YouTube, because I have a ton of videos for beginners to just get started. So things like how to just choose the right flowers for an arrangement, how to clean your flowers, how to use mechanics, how to choose the right vase. That's a great place to get started. There's a ton of YouTube videos out there. So I would say just start getting your hands on flowers and practicing. Let's see, what are some of the longest lasting flowers you like to use? It really depends on the season. Because we're using all local flowers, the flowers that we use change from week to week. So depending on the season, like right now, lilies, very long lasting. We're moving into the season of lisianthus. Lisianthus, obviously super long lasting. It really just depends on the season and what flowers are available. Let's see, somebody said, I have a small porch pickup business selling fresh flowers and sourdough breads. Sounds great. Perfect combination. I arrange in mason jars. Any advice? Oh, good question. I think using a wide mouth mason jar, whether it's a pint or a quart, is easier than regular mouth, and it may require you to use a stem or 2 or 3 more, but I actually like the look of a wide mouth rather than a regular mouth. And the only reason I say that is because with the wider mouth, you can put your flowers in at an angle more, which means they splay out more and everything doesn't feel so upright. When you're using a regular mouth, I feel like you don't have a lot of room to put things in an angle, and you end up putting them in straight up and down, where everything starts to feel like a column. And I really want to put them in at an angle. I feel like that's better. So let me just check out some other questions. What do flower farmers offer you from November through February? Well, starting in November, we have things like cabbage, mums, sunflowers. These are things that are grown either in hoop houses or end of November moving into December in greenhouses. Once we move into greenhouse time, we have more mums, lilies, cut poinsettias. And then once we hit January, then we're already into all of the spring flowers that are grown inside greenhouses. So tulips, ranunculus, just all the spring things. And actually, if you go back on Lisa's podcast, her and I did a whole podcast episode going month to month, talking about what flowers were available and what we were seeing month to month. I think that's a good record to go back and check out. Let's see. Home arranger, but volunteer to do 3 or 4 events a year. What floral mechanics do you recommend? I use chicken wire frogs and floral pillows. Am I missing something helpful for design? That is a great question. I just put out a floral mechanics video last week that shows all of the mechanics that I use as a foam-free floral designer. So I don't use floral foam, and the video goes through each of the mechanics that I use here in my shop and when I use them, how to use them. So the first method is the taped grid method. That's like the easiest one. Chicken wire is my go-to. Frogs are great. I also sometimes use an ocean pouch, which is sort of a newer mechanic, but it is plant-based. I also sometimes use agri-wool, another plant-based mechanic. So if you check out that video, you can see all of the mechanics that I use and how and when to use them. But it sounds like you're on the right track with all of the ones that you mentioned. All right, let's see what else we've got. I'm planning on trying my hand at selling flowers. I've been growing for years, but have never sold. We ramped up our growing this year and are planning on selling. I'm nervous. How do I prepare for market? So I am not a grower. I am a florist, but I will say that selling, you do have to sort of ramp yourself up. My best advice, whether you're selling at a farmer's market or to a florist or somewhere else, is first to know and understand your customer. So that means farmer's market customers are very different than florist customers, which are very different from maybe other types of customers. So really understanding your customer, what they like, what they want to buy, what is important to them. And then the other thing is having a really high quality product. So you just want to make sure that your quality is really top notch, because you want people to choose you over other vendors at the market, vegetable farmers that might have flowers. So really high quality. Understanding your customer and then having a high quality product, I think, is the first steps. I also offer a class through the Gardener's Workshop. If you go to the Gardener's Workshop website, called Preparing to Sell to Florists. It is specifically for selling to florists, but we do talk a lot about pricing in that class. It's only a $50 class, so you could buy it today, watch it in 2 hours, and I think get a lot of really good tools for getting started selling, whether it's at a market or to a florist. Somebody asked, what should I add to my vase water? For us, we use clean water only, unless we're making a design that is going to go to a business, say, and like a restaurant. If we provide flower arrangement for a restaurant where we know that they're just going to ignore the flowers all week, they're not going to change the water, it's hot in there, then we'll add floral food. But for the most part, clean water that you change every single day is the best way to get the most vase life out of your flowers. Somebody said, what's the best way to approach selling to a florist for the first time? This is all totally covered in my Selling to Florist class. So we have a very specific outline with templates of emails and what to say, how to approach. Overall, I would say the first thing you want to do is research the florist that you're going to. You really want to have as much information about the florist that you're going to before you go there. The next thing is I would not show up at a florist shop without an appointment. That's just my opinion. You really want to introduce yourself first by email, and in the class we have a template for an email introduction. You want to be prepared with things like an availability list, which we go through in the class, exactly how to make an availability list and what should go on an availability list so that the florist understands what you have available, how much it costs, how many you have, what format you should have an availability list in. So those are some of the ways to get started. You can ask for a meeting with a florist in person, but I would not just show up because florists are busy and they may not have time to discuss with you, fully what you want to talk about. So definitely check out the class. Like I said, it's called Preparing to Sell to Florists. It's only $50, and I think it's really well worth it, especially if you want to get started selling to florists. All right, let's see. I have a chance to open a flower cart. Do you recommend any strong flower winners? That's really exciting. I'm so curious about what that would entail. Always selling to the public when you're selling local flowers, I think about high quality. Also think about a good mix of stems. So some foliage, some line flowers, some focal flowers, some filler, some bits and pieces. Those are sort of the things that I look for when I'm creating a really great design. So having a good mix. And then also you want to set yourself apart from the grocery store or somewhere else. And so you want to be able to sell or offer flowers that are unique, can only be grown locally, are fragrant, that are heirloom varieties, that tell a story, that are seasonal. So all of those things are the things that are going to help make your product more interesting to a person trying to buy. All right, let me see. How much do you buy dahlia stems for? Great question. Because as we're moving into summer and we're going into dahlia season, dahlia pricing was a huge topic within our community last year. We were seeing dahlias, the same dahlia. So we did like a little study of something like Cornell Bronze, which is a basic orange ball dahlia. We were seeing them as low as $1.60 up to $4 a stem. So for us, where we want to be buying a plain ball dahlia is probably $2, maybe $2.50 at the most. But for something as, plain as a ball dahlia, $2 is really where we want to be. $1.60, that is pretty low. And I actually did reach out to the grower to just say, that is kind of low. $4, way too expensive. I mean, for us, there was no way we would be able to buy a $4 dahlia. One thing that's important to understand when you're trying to sell to a florist is that a florist, in order to make money and stay in business, they have to do what's called at least a 3 times markup. So when we buy a dahlia for $2, we have to mark it up 3 times, which means we should be charging $6 to the customer for that stem. So, and the way that breaks down is in thirds. So a third of the price, $2, goes to the farmer. A third of the price goes to overhead. So that means paying my rent, paying my utilities, all of the things that go into paying my staff, all the things that go into running a business. And then a third is supposed to be for profit. So that's what I get paid. But if I'm undercharging, so say I only charge $4 to my customer, that means $2 goes to the farmer. $2 covers all of my overhead, my staff costs, my utilities, my insurance, but I am not being paid. So if a farmer feels like they have to sell a dahlia for $4, that is totally fine. I may not be able to buy it. You may have to find a customer that can buy it so that they can sell it to their customer for $12. So great question about dahlias. I'm not sure what this year is going to hold, but I will say that last year there was a lot of, I don't know even what to say, what the word is. There was a lot of stress because people had a lot of dahlias. They were trying to charge a lot for them and they weren't selling as many, I think because the price was too high. And so people, I don't know, were stressed. Let's see. Somebody said, what filler do you use in bouquets that last the longest? Again, that just depends on the season. So filler right now, we're using things like feverfew, yarrow, especially moonshine yarrow, that lasts forever. Things like, what else do we have? Stock, which is a good filler. It really just depends on the season. But right now, I'd say like our greatest filler that lasts the longest right now is moonshine yarrow. Let's see if there's any other questions. Somebody asked, where can you buy bulk flowers? So like for me personally, I just buy directly from our farmers in bulk. Other florists would buy in bulk from, say, like a wholesaler or from an online wholesaler, either an in-person wholesaler or online wholesaler. Let's see. How do you rely on social media if you are not so good at it? That is a great question. Here is what I would say about social media. It is sort of a normal part of business these days. And I think that it's important to get comfortable with it enough so that you can use it as a tool. So that's what you want it to be, a tool. You want it to be a tool to tell your story to your customer or to better serve your customer. So I would start by just saying, okay, what is the one, maybe two, but one social media platform where I know that my customers are? So whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, pick one or two and focus on those. And then just get comfortable even posting once a day, like for Instagram, posting once a day. It doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be like overly thought out. It can be a simple picture. It doesn't have to be a reel. I mean, that's great if you can do video, but if you can't, you can't. Just to get started, a picture and a story. The story of your flowers, the story of your farm, the story of your life as a farmer. Be thinking about what your customers would want to see on your social media. Keep it simple. You can, take a picture. There's very simple editing on your phone. If you take a look at my social media, like I said, I'm on Instagram at Local Color Flowers or at Ellen Frost Flowers. I do try to post every day. I have sort of a list of pictures in my phone that I can use and just go from there. Don't overthink it. Make it simple. Like for me, I do it in the morning, every morning. So it's just part of my morning routine. I get up, I do my coffee, I read the paper, I post on Instagram. Make it part of your routine so it doesn't feel like something like hanging over your head. And make it fun. Right? I mean, social media, I feel like should be fun. It used to be fun. It can be fun. It's a way to interact with your people. So the thing that I like most about social media is that I can interact with people that care about the same stuff I can. So whether that's sending a direct message or answering a comment or asking for comments, try to make it fun and interactive. I think that will help. All right, let me take a look at some more questions. How many stems of each flower variety are you looking to buy at a minimum at a time? Well, let me maybe rearrange the question a little bit. Sometimes I need to buy things just in small quantities. So if you're a grower who has a small quantity of a certain flower, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to buy from you because sometimes I just need one or two bunches. However, if I'm trying to buy in bulk, more stems at once does make my life easier. But I would say, if you're selling by the stem, you're really only selling by the stem until you're big enough or you have enough stuff to sell by the bunch. The standard is to sell by a 10 stem bunch. So if you are listing on your availability list, 2 bunches of something, I think that's fine. Okay, let's see. Got a couple more questions here. What do you use for focal flowers after the spring push before the summer flowers come in? Great question. Let's see, focal flowers. So we go from basically like tulips to peonies, And then after peonies is always where we get stressed. So then we have roses, local roses, and sunflowers and lilies. So that's the season we're in right now. Peonies are just ending. We are moving into roses, sunflowers, and lilies. And then we're really chomping at the bit to get into dahlia season. So that's sort of our focal flower schedule. How do you handle others undercutting your prices? Great question. Comes up all the time, right? And I'm sure for farmers it comes up all the time too. I feel like I have to just put my head down and focus on my own work and having the price that works best for me, and trying not to worry or obsess about what my competitors are doing. I know that sounds easier said than done, and it may feel, especially when you're really hungry for work, it may feel like people are stealing work from you because they're undercutting them. But let's be clear. People that are undercharging are not being profitable, and they will not stay in business. You have to charge so that you are profitable, and in turn, you can stay in business. If you are not being profitable, you can't stay in business. And people that are undercutting you, or people that are charging too little, they are not going to be in it for the long haul. They just are not going to they're going to be burned out. They're not going to be making any money. They're going to be working hard. So just focus on your own pricing, your own work, giving the best you can to a high quality product for your customer at a price that makes sense for you. Let's see. Have you ever used alum to extend bloom time? I haven't. I know that people do use it for hydrangeas a lot. I haven't used it. I haven't needed to, but I know that people do use it. Let's see. Do you have a tutorial on the basics of a mason jar or small arrangement for growers, home gardeners? I do have a tutorial on YouTube for small arrangements. It's actually in an arrangement in a vase that's about 4 inches tall and 3.5 inches wide. I don't have one specifically for a mason jar, but that's a good idea. I might try one of those. If you look at the one for the hobnail, it's basically going to be the same techniques. So if you check out my YouTube, you'll see some videos there. Let's see. Remember seeing a talk you had with Lisa and Lane last year about zinnias? Oh my God, the zinnias. Did the discussion help improve how you were able to use zinnias? That's such a good question, because we're moving into zinnia season, and I feel like I have a little bit of renewed interest in trying to make zinnias work for me, mostly because I had 1 or 2 growers that had super high quality zinnias. We tested them for a couple of weeks. We didn't have any problems. There was no meltdown. They stayed fine in the cooler. So that gave me a little bit of renewed excitement for zinnias. I know with the floret zinnias on the market and a lot of people trying them for the first time, there's going to be a lot of interest in zinnias. I'm excited to see them. So if you haven't checked out that podcast or video that I did with Lane and Lisa all about zinnias and all of my gripes, all of my complaints about zinnias, Lisa and Lane were very gracious. They had very good responses, and I do have a little bit of renewed interest in trying zinnias this year. All right, we're almost at the end of our time. Remember that you can find me on social media at Local Color Flowers for the shop and Ellen Frost Flowers for my personal brand. You can also check out my YouTube, Ellen Frost Flowers. And if you go to ellenfrost.com, you can sign up for my free weekly newsletter. Of course, I'm biased, but I think it's awesome. We have a lot of great response from it, a lot of great community we're building there. So definitely check that out. And if you have any questions after we're done here today, just reach out, send me a direct message. I would be happy to chit chat, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.